Hello, Math 20-1. So the learner outcome here is called rationalizing the denominator. And I guess the first thing is when we say math words, they should mean something before we actually do them. So I'm not even going to go to the next slide. I just want you to take a second to think, well, if you just looked at the title of this, learner outcome, what would it be about? Whitney, what would it be about? So just so we're clear, the word rational, right? Rational means to be a fraction, to be rational, to not be a radical. So the word rational means not to be a radical. A rational number is 1/2 or 2/3, sorry, 3 are not equals, but a rational number are numbers that are fractions. 1/2 and 2/3, they are rational numbers. But we want to rationalize the denominator. So what it really means is in final form, a radical expression cannot have radicals in the denominator. So that's really what this learner outcome is about. So when we look at things, how are we going to accomplish that? Well, we learned a little bit about this in Math 10. So we saw in Math 10 was that in order to rationalize a monomial denominator, we want to get an integer in the bottom. So what we did was we simply multiplied both the numerator and denominator by that radical. So I want to blow up root 3. I'm not allowed to have it in the bottom. So I multiply the top and bottom by root 3, which is legal because that's really just multiplying by 1. And when I do that, I get 5 root 3 over 3. The decimal value of this number is identical to this number. They are equivalent. So why do we do it? Because now we have a rational number in the bottom. And all is good in math, right? And it's not unlike when having 4/8, we don't leave it like that. We simplify it to 1/2 because there's an infinite number of equivalent fractions, and the one that we want is a half. We don't want 3/6, and we don't want 5/10. We want to be consistent in how we express our answers so that we all reduce it down to a half. That's really what this is about, okay? Being consistent. So when we have 6 and 5 root 2, the real problem with this question is the root 2 in the bottom. So we're only going to multiply top and bottom by root 2 so that we can blow up the 2. We don't worry about the 5 because it is a rational number. So now we get 6 root 2 over 10. But that isn't the final answer because, again, like we said, we don't want to leave 4/8. So we now will take 6 over 10 and simplify that to 3/5. So it's always about taking it to simplest form. And lastly, when we look at 2 root 3 over 3 root 5, we need to blow up that root 5. So we multiply top and bottom by root 5, and we get 2 root 15 over 15. Can I do any simplifying? Oh, you might be teased into canceling those 15s, but one is inside and one is outside, so we can't do that. What if we have binomial denominators? Well, in this case, this is where the conjugate comes into play. That powerful little tool that we learned that blew up the radicals comes into play. We'll multiply the top and bottom by the conjugate, and the middle terms blow up, so I don't need to multiply them all. So I get 5 root 3 minus 5 root 2, which then just simplifies because this denominator just becomes 1. Okay? And that is now an expression that does not have any radicals in the bottom. Okay? So what about, I'll just move this up so we can see it. What about rationalizing other ones like this? Whoopsie. So in this case, you got to be careful that you actually multiply by the conjugate. The conjugate of the denominator is 3 root 3 plus root 5. We follow through with our multiplying of conjugates, and you should get 27 minus 20, and on the top, 12 root 3 plus 8 root 5. We simplify as much as we can, and our final answer is that. Next example, you try this on your own, okay? Your turn. Okay, come back. Now that you've tried it, you should have seen this is the most complicated. Be careful how you approach this one. These are conjugates on the bottom. These are not conjugates on top. You need to completely FOIL the top out. So you will have 4 terms in the top, and you'll have simply 3 minus 8 on the bottom, okay? If those terms don't make sense, please ask tomorrow. But now we'll simplify this if we can, and the best we can do is, oops, can you see that bottom answer? And I can't really do anything more than that. That's as good as it gets. No like radicals and nothing I can cancel out as a common factor. And that's all there is to rationalize the denominator. Take care.